Hi there. Last week, the casting process began on the upcoming Tales of Dunk and Egg TV series, which will be the second Game of Thrones prequel spin-off by HBO. They explained that the title will be A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms so that casual viewers understand at a glance, oh, this is a Westeros show. Still, it's based on the series of prequel novellas called The Tales of Dunk and Egg, which are really the first spin-off Martin developed. He wrote the first one in the late 90s. And they're also the only spin-offs that are fully narrativized, like in text as you would read in a novel. Because, House of the Dragon's based on Fire and Blood. That's an in-universe history book written as an outline. And they managed to do a pretty good job. These are finished works. They've even had graphic novel adaptations. But that does raise a question that there are currently 3 novellas, but Martin said they're out of a planned 12. Now keep in mind, they're episodic. He puts them out every couple of years. They do stand alone. You could just do the first 3 for the sake of doing the first 3 and not continue, but we kind of want them to. And HBO's head of drama briefly discussed this back in spring, Francesca Orsi. She said, our current plan is focus on doing the first 3, and then we'll see what happens. Again, that you could, because there's time skips in it, you could easily just go on break for 2 years and figure out what to do next. I'm okay with that. That Martin said there's a planned 12, and they will cover a range of 50 years. From when they're teenagers in the first ones to when they're old men. That they couldn't age into this. You would have to make a 10-year time skip at a certain point, possibly twice, and recast the leads. And even if we had all of them finished, this raises questions of, is this 1 TV show or 2 or even 3 shows? And what exactly are these stopping points, and how much material do we have in hand that if a bolt of lightning struck Martin tomorrow, we could still have TV writers put together a decent TV show? Well, to skip to my conclusion up front, there is very clearly a stopping point after what should be the 7th novella. Looking at a timeline of all we know about other events in their lives from the World of Ice and Fire sourcebook, there is a very clear stopping point after the 7th novella, which would be about the 3rd Blackfire Rebellion, which is a good place to make a climax. It's a major war. After that, there's a 12-year time skip where not much happens. And the second half, we have less source material for. There's longer time skips in it. You could make the argument you might want to do it as 2 shorter shows for a second and third show, but I realized, no, keep it as a second half with more time skips, maybe even recasting the leads by the very end when he's a grandfather, maybe. But conceptually, that's 1 half. That's 1 long 7-season show. But we don't need to worry about the second half right now. That's a question for 10 years from now. That seeing A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms as 1 show, I think there is enough material for 7, maybe 6 seasons. Then most of that material is finished. There's a clear stopping point, and this could work pretty well. I was surprised at how well it lined up, actually. So I'm going to split off a separate video going over all this stuff for the second one, but short version is we have the first 3 novellas, 1 per season, and they're short seasons, like 6 episodes each. Now, they cover a range of 3 years. The first one is in the year 209, then there's a 2-year time skip during the plague. Third one happens in the year 211, just going through the timeline from World of Ice and Fire. The 4th and 5th prequel novellas, we don't have an exact calendar date for them, but Martin has said what they're about, and he said they're mostly finished. I mean, they exist as rough drafts. It's just he dropped what he was doing to continue work on The Winds of Winter. Which is right, that people would yell at him more if he said, oh, I'm going on pause to work on them, even though it's 90% done. If I took 6 months to finish it, people would really yell at me. Fair enough. The 4th novella we're really looking forward to is The She-Wolves of Winterfell. Dunk and Egg go to Winterfell and see all the prequel Starks in that time period. You'll meet the main Stark in House of the Dragon era next season, season 2, Cregan Stark, and he's young. And he has many grandchildren. It's his youngest grandchild is an old man when Dunk and Egg meet him on his deathbed when they come to Winterfell. Give you a sense of the timelines about 80 years later. And because a couple of Stark lords died in rapid succession from various rebellions, and pirate raids and so forth, there's half a dozen widow regents jockeying for power with their children at Winterfell when they arrive, and they have to solve this succession dispute. So that should be a full season. Duncan Egg's Stark season, because they're not in the other ones that much. That'll be season 4. The 5th novella, also mostly finished, is titled The Village Hero, and would see them going to the Riverlands and getting embroiled in the Blackwood-Bracken feud. Which is interesting in and of itself to book readers, but the bigger thing is, while there, Egg would meet his future wife, Betha Blackwood, and future queen. They said that he married for love, because he's this minor princeling, does it really matter? And then, through a series of unfortunate events, he became king after everyone else died, and she's his queen, Betha Blackwood. So, of the 2 title characters, and Dunk never marries because he becomes a Kingsguard, Egg's future wife, this big romance, is introduced in the 5th novella, which would be a 5th TV season. So, I believe Martin when he says, well, I'm just a perfectionist, but these are like 90% done. It's more than an outline. If Fire and Blood was an outline, this is much more than an outline. This is a rough draft. We have for season 4 and season 5. And looking at a calendar again, because we didn't have exact dates for those, there's 8 years between the 3rd novella and the 3rd Blackfire Rebellion in the year 219 AC. And just looking at all the events that would happen, this would obviously cover a full novella, a full TV season, and would be the 7th novella, just looking at what if they mentioned were major events in their lives. Martin probably has a pretty good outline for this. It's just he didn't share it with us. That the co-authors of The World of Ice and Fire pulled him aside and said, maybe you shouldn't reveal all of this, it's too spoilery. So in the finished book, there's just this vague paragraph going, we all know what happened in the infamous 3rd Blackfire Rebellion, so I need not repeat it here in this history book. But one thing we do know is it involves the rematch between the second epic duel between Bloodraven and Bittersteel. That since the Battle of Redgrass Field, so that'll be something to look forward to. Other things that we don't know what Martin does, because it was a major event. A war he'd have a lot of notes about. Even if it isn't a printed novella, you could work your way up to that as a final season that's mostly action-oriented. Just assuming we had 6 out of 7 seasons done, and well, the 7th novella isn't finished, but I could tell the writers, they'd be established by then, they could work it out. How many times do we have to tell people, Game of Thrones didn't get bad when they ran out of books? Benioff and Weiss voluntarily abandoned the outline that Martin told them. They even voluntarily abandoned the print books in season 5. That's why the book fans were up in arms over that, with, what are you doing to Sansa? What are you doing to Dorne and to Stannis? And then people just have this blank look on their face and go, well, they ran out of books. No, they didn't. That a living author can more or less, it's workable if you're 6 seasons into a 7-season thing and he has a decent idea what happens in the final climax. And he could tell the TV writers. But that's just for the 3rd Blackfire Rebellion season 7. The 6th novella is the only problem point. Not that we don't know what happens, we can tell what it is. It's just, it's only an outline. It's not even a rough draft like he has for She-Wolves or something. Looking at a timeline, it's pretty clear that the 6th novella will be about the rat, the hawk, and the pig. We have no idea what the hell that is. No, it's, looking at a timeline, it says, well, 211 is the failed plot of the 2nd Blackfire Rebellion. Then 215, Rhaegal the Mad chokes on lamprey pie, but he had 2 children. Only for then in 217, Rhaegal's son Aelor was killed by his sister Aelora in a mishap that left her mad with grief. And eventually she took her own life in 217 at a ball where she was confronted by, it just says, 3 men known to history as the rat, the hawk, and the pig. And the weird thing is, I'm not going to get into this too much, they seem to also be what the 11th novella would be about, and that's 30 years later. It just says, and one of Egg's children died fighting the rat, the hawk, and the pig. 30 years later. What? And some people suggested, well, maybe it's more of like an outlaw title. Like, there's more than one Vulture King in Dorne. The Vulture King is just a nickname they give to particularly powerful bandit lords in the mountains of Dorne. It gets reused a lot. So maybe it was more of a title, Dread Pirate Roberts kind of thing, like the Vulture King. We're not sure, but nothing else happens between the third thing. Obviously, the She-Wolves and Village Hero happen, but they're not part of the timeline. Third Blackfire Rebellion would be the obvious climax. Something involving the Rat, the Hawk, and the Pig, and how the older brother of Egg's father, Maekar, as well as his children, die, making Maekar the heir apparent to his oldest brother, Aerys the First. So it is an important event. It's how Egg goes from being 13th in line to the throne to he's gradually working his way up the food chain after the plague that kills... Well, Baelor Breakspears died at the tourney, but then his children die in the plague. That by the end of this, Egg is more like 4th in line to the throne as opposed to 13th, and it just works his way up. So the only thing I might suggest, if you're worried about, well, how would they get to 7 seasons, it's actually not that hard. That we have more like through season 5, and season 7 is mostly action. Third Blackfire, he has a lot of notes on it. You might want to go 6 seasons by condensing the notes on the Rat, the Hawk, and the Pig with the Village Hero. But then again, Village Hero is mostly done. But like the Winterfell thing, you shouldn't combine that with anything. Subtract from it's a Stark season. You might want to condense the Rat, the Hawk, and the Pig with other things. But play around with the format. Like, these are going to be 6-episode seasons. Maybe season 6 would be a supersized... Other shows, Better Call Saul has supersized final seasons. Maybe do it as a 10-episode season aired in 2 halves of 5. What I would do is have, me personally, season 6, due to limited source material, my suggestion is have season 5A be the Village Hero. 5B, another 5 episodes, be about the Rat, the Hawk, and the Pig. Then season 6, the Blackfire Rebellion. If you're unwilling to go 7 seasons. If it's a successful... But they only need to figure that out after season 4. If it's really successful, the writers have proven themselves after season 4, have an option to go, okay, we'll do the Rat, the Hawk, and the Pig as a standalone 6th season, then do the third Blackfire Rebellion as season 7. We don't need to worry about this now. Even HBO is saying we're focused on the first 3. Even through the 4th one, it's just, it takes time to write them. Figure out how to handle that we really don't have the 6th one. But the 7th one is mostly in hand for me. Like I said, I'm keeping this shorter than 15 minutes of just how much material is there. This would be a full 7-season show. Not of 10 episodes a season, but 6 episodes a season, almost like a mini TV movie for 7 seasons that they want to make consecutively. Maybe take a year off between seasons 3 and 4. This will be a full TV series, not like a 3-season one-shot. The second half, after the third Blackfire Rebellion, the 12-year time skip, that's a little more problematic, but I'm going to split that off into a longer video, because I want to keep this succinct of just, I am not worried about the season structure for the show they're working on right now. 7 seasons, climaxing with the third Blackfire Rebellion.